Captain Taewon Kim stood at the viewport of the UEF Nightingale, watching the stars blur as the medical ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. His dark eyes fixed on the blue-green world of Halcyon 6 growing larger in the distance. Beautiful, isn't it? Major Ji-Hai Park stepped beside him. Her medical uniform was crisp, the red cross patch on her shoulder standing out against the white fabric. Hard to believe there's a war down there. Taewon nodded. Let's hope our presence helps end it. The Nightingale wasn't a warship. It carried no heavy weapons. Its shields were designed to protect patients, not to withstand military attacks. The ship's true purpose was written across its hull in 12 different languages. Medical vessel, neutral, all species welcome. 5 years of war with the Vraxian Dominion had left both sides tired and broken. This mission was humanity's olive branch, a neutral medical outpost serving wounded from both sides. Captain to the bridge, the ship's AI announced. Incoming message from command. In the bridge, Admiral Hayes' face appeared on the main screen. Captain Kim, we've received reports of fighting near your landing zone. Vraxian separatists are opposing the peace talks. Should we abort the mission, sir? Taewon asked. Negative. This medical outpost is too important for the treaty, but take extra precautions. These separatists don't respect medical neutrality. Taewon turned to his team gathered on the bridge. Besides Ji-Hai, there was Sergeant Hyunwoo Lee, their top combat medic, a man whose hands could perform surgery in the middle of a battlefield. Dr. Yoonji Cho, their research specialist, was checking medical supplies on her tablet. 6 other medical officers completed the core team. We're going in hot, Taewon announced. Full medical kits, and wear your lightweight armor under your uniforms. Remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to save lives. The shuttle bay was busy with activity as the team loaded their equipment. The new portable hospital units were a marvel of human engineering. A duffel-sized package that expanded into a sterile field operating room in less than 3 minutes. These new bioscanners can read Vraxian vital signs now, Yoonji said, holding up a device the size of her palm. The translation software should help us communicate with wounded who don't speak standard. Just don't accidentally tell a Vraxian warrior you're going to cook his liver, Hyunwoo joked. The translator still gets medical terms mixed up sometimes. Their laughter was cut short by the shuttle's warning lights. All personnel secure for departure. Atmospheric entry in 5 minutes. The shuttle broke away from the Nightingale, its hull glowing as it entered Halcyon 6 atmosphere. Through the small windows, Taewon could see the planned landing zone. A flat plain near the main settlement, far enough from the fighting to be safe. That's when the proximity alarm blared. Missile lock, the pilot shouted. Brace for evasive. Action. The shuttle dropped and swerved. Taewon's stomach lurched as artificial gravity struggled to compensate. Who's firing at us? We're clearly marked as medical. Separatist battery on that ridge, the pilot replied, hands dancing across the controls. They don't care what we are. The first missile missed. The second didn't. Impact threw Taewon against his harness. The shuttle spun wildly, emergency lights flashing red. Warning system screamed as the craft plummeted toward the planet's surface. Everyone crash positions, Ji-Hai shouted. The shuttle hit the ground with a metal-tearing shriek. Taewon's world became noise and pain and darkness. He awoke to the taste of blood and the smell of burning electronics. Smoke filled the cabin. Through ringing ears he heard Ji-Hai's voice. Medical team, sound off. Who's alive? Taewon unbuckled his harness with shaking hands. Captain Kim, alive. Around him, voices responded. Some strong, some weak, but all 10 team members accounted for. The pilots? He asked, stumbling toward the cockpit. Ji-Hai was already there, her face grim as she checked pulses. Co-pilot's alive but trapped. Pilot didn't make it. Taewon squeezed her shoulder, then turned to the team. We need to get out before the fuel cells go. Hyunwoo, help me with the co-pilot. Yoonji, check what medical supplies survived. They worked quickly, pulling their wounded teammate from the crushed cockpit. Outside Halcyon 6, twin suns beat down on unfamiliar terrain. They'd crashed far from their intended landing zone, in a rocky valley filled with twisted blue-green vegetation. "Where are we?" Hyunwoo asked, setting up a portable medical station for the injured co-pilot. Ji-hai checked her geomapper. About 40 kilometers from the settlement, in separatist territory. The situation was bad. Their emergency beacon was working, but rescue could take days. They had limited supplies, no transport, and a wounded man who needed proper medical care. Then they heard the screams. Not human screams. These were higher-pitched, almost like singing. Vraxian voices. Taewon grabbed his medical bag. "Someone's hurt. Maybe from the settlement." "Captain, we can't just," Ji-hai began. "We're medical personnel." "That's a person in pain. Human, Vraxian, doesn't matter." Following the sounds, they crested a small hill and found the source. A Vraxian ground. Transport had been hit by something powerful. Maybe the same battery that shot down their shuttle. 3 Vraxian civilians lay wounded among the wreckage. The Vraxians saw them approach and tried to crawl away in terror, their 6-limbed bodies leaving trails in the dirt. Their skin was the pale green of their civilian caste, with the distinctive ridge patterns of the southern tribes. Taewon raised empty hands. "We're not soldiers," he said, pointing to the red cross on his uniform. "Doctors. Healers." The universal translator on his wrist converted his words into the clicking, musical language of the Vraxians. The wounded aliens froze, confusion evident in their large, faceted eyes. "Why would humans help?" one asked, dark green blood seeping from a wound in its side. "Because you're hurt," Taewon replied simply. "And we're doctors." The medical team worked quickly. Vraxian anatomy was different from human. 3-chambered hearts, copper-based blood, exoskeletal reinforcement around vital organs. But the team had trained for this. "Multiple fractures in the secondary limbs," Yoonji reported, scanning one patient. "Internal bleeding in the lower thorax." "I need a vascular seal here," Hyunwoo called, his hands already bloody as he worked to close a wound. Hours passed as they stabilized the Vraxian survivors. As they worked, more aliens appeared, a search party looking for the missing transport. The newcomers approached cautiously, weapons raised. The lead Vraxian, wearing the red-striped armor of their warrior caste, spoke sharply. "Step away from our people, humans." Taewon kept working as he responded. "We're almost done. This one needs continued care or the chest wound will reopen." "Why do you help them?" the warrior demanded. "We are enemies." "Not here, we're not," Ji-hai said. "We're medical personnel. We help anyone who needs it." The Vraxian commander studied them, head tilted in the gesture of their people's confusion. "Your vessel was destroyed. You should be dead. Yet you live, and use your living to preserve our wounded." "That's our job," Taewon said. "Everyone deserves to go home alive." As the Vraxian search party departed with their wounded, Taewon overheard their whispered conversation, only partly translated by his device. They fell from the sky, survived when they should not have, then saved our dying when they could. Have let them perish. What manner of beings are these humans? The elder texts speak of such creatures, another replied. The deathless ones who walk between worlds, guiding souls back from darkness. Deathless angels, a third voice said. Taewon sighed as they disappeared into the alien forest. Great. Sounds like we've got a nickname already. Ji-hai smiled tiredly. Could be worse. At least it's better than what they called us during the war. As night fell on Halcyon 6, the team set up their camp around the crashed shuttle. Tomorrow they would begin the long journey to the settlement, carrying what supplies they could salvage. Their mission had barely begun, and already it had changed in ways none of them had expected. What they didn't know was that stories of the crash were already spreading among the Vraxian camps, tales of humans who should have died but didn't, who healed instead of harmed. Tales that would soon echo across the stars. They called them deathless angels. The humans just wanted everyone to go home alive. 3 months had passed since the crash. The medical outpost on Halcyon 6 was now fully operational. White tents and prefab buildings formed a small city of healing in the neutral zone between human and Vraxian territories. Captain Tae-Won Kim walked through the main treatment ward. Beds lined both sides, filled with patients from both species. Human nurses worked alongside Vraxian medical apprentices, a sight unthinkable just months ago. Morning report, Captain. Major Ji-Hai Park handed him a tablet. 47 patients, currently in care. 6 surgeries scheduled today. Tae-Won nodded. Any trouble at the perimeter? All quiet. The peace talk seemed to be working. The fragile truce had held. Each day without fighting was another victory. Tae-Won allowed himself a small smile as he checked on a young Vraxian whose leg they had saved from amputation. That's when the alarms began to scream. Unidentified ships entering orbit. A voice called over the comm system. All personnel to emergency stations. Tae-Won rushed outside. The sky above Halcyon 6 was changing. Dozens of ships, unlike any human or Vraxian design, descended through the clouds, their hulls black and smooth like river stones. What are they? Ji-Hai asked, joining him outside. Before he could answer, the distant sound of explosions rolled across the plains. Flashes of light erupted from both the human settlement to the east and the Vraxian encampment to the west. They're attacking everyone, Tae-Won realized. Both sides. The comm system crackled. This is Admiral Chen, all UEF personnel. We are under attack by an unknown species calling themselves the Meridian Collective. They've hit all major settlements simultaneously. Fall back to emergency positions. Sergeant Hyunwoo Lee ran up, already loading medical supplies into a transport. Captain, we've got incoming wounded, lots of them. Within hours, the outpost was overwhelmed. The injured arrived in waves, humans, Vraxians, and soon the first of the strange new attackers. The Meridians looked almost like tall, thin humans, but with bluish skin and 4 arms. Their blood was thick and dark purple. Dr. Yoonji Cho worked frantically to save a Meridian soldier who had been captured. Their biology is fascinating, she said, adjusting the bioscanner. They have redundant organs, almost like they evolved to survive battlefield trauma. Maybe that's why they don't seem to care about their wounded, Ji-Hai replied. She pointed through the window where they could see Meridian troops advancing across the plains. Look how they move. No medics. No one stopping for the fallen. A Vraxian commander named Ket Zul limped into the medical tent, green blood seeping through a bandage on his arm. His normally bright orange eyes were dull with pain and worry. Captain Kim, the Meridians push toward your human settlement, but they also attack our people in the southern valley. What do they want? Tae-Won asked. Unknown. They speak only to make demands of surrender. But the Vraxian hesitated. We have seen them with prisoners. They kill the wounded, all wounded, even their own. The news grew worse as the day progressed. Reports came in of Meridian troops specifically targeting medical facilities and wounded personnel. A human scout reported seeing Meridian soldiers methodically executing injured soldiers who couldn't walk. As night fell, the distant sounds of battle grew closer. The outpost's limited defenses wouldn't hold against a direct attack. We need to evacuate, Tae-Won told his team. Get the patients loaded on the transports. There are too many, Ji-Hai argued, and the most critical can't be moved. Then we need to move them somewhere safer than here. The decision was made, as darkness covered the battlefield, a darkness deeper than usual because one of Halcyon 6 moons had been shattered in the orbital battle, giving the conflict its name, the Battle of Severed Night. The medical team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. Dr. Cho led Tae-Won to a storage area and unlocked a sealed container. Inside were 5 sleek exoskeletons, their white surfaces marked with the Red Cross symbol. The new M4 medical extraction suits, she explained. They were meant for search and rescue in disaster zones, not combat. They'll have to do, Tae-Won said. How do they work? They amplify strength and speed. You can carry 3 times your body weight, run twice as fast. The shield system can deflect debris and small arms fire. 5 team members, Tae-Won, Ji-Hai, Hyunwoo, and 2 others, suited up in the experimental exoskeletons. The machines hummed as they powered on, wrapping around their bodies like second skins. Remember, we're not going to fight, Tae-Won reminded them. We're going to evacuate the wounded from the valley and bring them to the cave system we found. In and out. No heroics. They moved out after midnight. With the exoskeletons, they ran silently across the battlefield, covering ground that would normally take hours to traverse. The suit's sensors helped them avoid enemy patrols. The valley was a nightmare. What had once been a Vraxian settlement was now a burning ruin. Bodies lay everywhere. The medical team moved quickly, checking for survivors. "Over here," Jihai called. She knelt beside a group of wounded Vraxian civilians huddled in the remains of a building. "They're alive." Nearby, they found human soldiers, pinned down in a defensive position, many of them badly wounded. And beyond that, surprisingly, injured Meridian troops left behind by their own forces. "We take them all," Taewon ordered. With the exoskeleton's enhanced strength, each team member could carry multiple wounded. Taewon lifted a Vraxian adult who would normally weigh too much for any human to carry, securing them carefully to his back. Jihai gathered 2 human children in her arms. They worked through the night, making trip after trip between the valley and the caves. Each journey grew more dangerous as Meridian patrols intensified. During their 4th trip, they were spotted. "Humans, stop!" The Meridian patrol leader raised his weapon, a rifle that pulsed with strange energy. "Put down the wounded." Taewon stood his ground, an injured Vraxian child in his arms. "We're medical personnel. These people need help." "The wounded must be cleansed," the Meridian said in strangely accented standard. "It is mercy. It is our way." "Not here, it isn't." Hyunwoo stepped forward, the exoskeleton humming with power. "Back off." The patrol opened fire. Energy blasts hit Hyunwoo directly in the chest, sending him flying backward. Taewon expected to see his friend dead, but incredibly, the exoskeleton had absorbed much of the blast. Hyunwoo staggered back to his feet, the front of his suit blackened but intact. "Run!" Taewon shouted. The team scattered, each carrying wounded, using their enhanced speed to escape. More Meridian troops converged on them. Jihai took a hit to her leg but kept running. Taewon's suit warned of failing power after a glancing blow to his back. But they kept moving, kept carrying the wounded to safety. By dawn, they had evacuated over 60 injured people to the caves. The makeshift hospital was crowded but defensible. As medical staff treated the new arrivals, Taewon heard the Vraxians talking among themselves. "They moved through fire untouched," one warrior said. "I saw the human female struck by energy that would kill a normal being." Yet she continued. "They carry our people as if they weigh nothing," another added. "And they take even the enemy wounded." "Deathless," a third voice whispered. "The angels of mercy who cannot be killed." Exhausted, his exoskeleton's power finally depleted, Taewon slumped against the cave wall beside Jihai. "Hear what they're calling us?" she asked, wincing as a medic treated the burn on her leg. "Angels again," he sighed. "If they only knew how human we are. Human enough to be terrified," she agreed, "but not human enough to leave anyone behind." Outside, the battle of Severed Night raged on. But inside the cave, the wounded of 3 species slept under the care of those they were beginning to call the Deathless Angels. 6 months after the Battle of Severed Night, the medical outpost had moved to a new location. The cave system had been expanded into a proper underground hospital with tunnels connecting treatment areas, recovery wards, and living quarters. The natural rock protected them from orbital scans and bombardment. Captain Taewon Kim sat in his small office, reviewing supply requests. Their situation had improved since the UEF Nightingale had returned to orbit, dropping regular shipments of medicine and equipment. But resources were still tight with over 300 patients from all 3 species under their care. A knock at the door interrupted his work. Major Jihai Park entered, her uniform neat as always despite the dust that seemed to get everywhere in the caves. "You need to see this," she said, placing a tablet on his desk. Taewon scrolled through images from around the galaxy, photos of their team during rescue operations. artwork depicting human figures in shining white armor carrying wounded aliens, even crude religious symbols combining the medical cross with wings and halos. "What is this?" he asked. "The legend of the Deathless Angels," Jihai replied. "It's spreading across Vraxian space. Even some humans are talking about it now." Taewon frowned. "We're just doing our jobs." "I know that. You know that. But to people out there," she pointed upward, toward the surface and the stars beyond, "we're becoming something else." The door opened again as Dr. Yoonji Cho rushed in, her eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, I've got it working." She placed a small case on the desk and opened it. Inside was a vial of silver liquid that seemed to move on its own, like mercury but lighter. "The nanite trauma system," she explained. "I've finally stabilized the formula." This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. A medical technology that could keep a wounded soldier alive even with catastrophic injuries, giving medics time to reach them and provide proper treatment. "You're sure it works?" Taewon asked. Yoonji nodded. "I tested it on tissue samples from all 3 species. The nanites create temporary artificial systems, stopping bleeding, maintaining oxygen flow, even bypassing damaged organs until real medical help arrives." "Any side effects?" Jihai asked. "Some unusual readings on medical scanners. The nanites mask normal life signs while they work. Patients might briefly register as deceased before the system stabilizes them, so they appear to die and then come back to life," Taewon said slowly. "That won't help with the whole Deathless Angels situation." "But it will save lives," Yoonji insisted. "Isn't that what matters?" Before Taewon could answer, Sergeant Hyun-Woo Lee's voice came over the comm system, tense and urgent. "Medical emergency in Sector 4. Multiple casualties." They rushed through the tunnels to find chaos in the diplomatic wing. A small cultural exchange ceremony between human and Vraxian representatives had been attacked. Somehow, a group of Meridian extremists had infiltrated the base. "What happened?" Taewon demanded, kneeling beside a wounded human diplomat. "They came out of nowhere," a security officer explained, pressing a bandage to his own bleeding arm. "Said they were here to cleanse the corruption of mercy. They took hostages, 3 human diplomats and the Vraxian High Commander. The situation was critical. The Meridians had retreated deeper into the cave system with their captives. If the Vraxian High Commander died, any hope for peace would die with him." "We need to go after them," Hyun-Woo said, checking his medical kit. "Those hostages won't last long." "The security team is suiting up," Jihai reported, "but they're 10 minutes away." "The hostages may not have 10 minutes, Taewon decided. "We go now." They had only 2 working medical exoskeletons left after the Battle of Severed Night. Taewon and Hyun-Woo put them on, while Jihee and Eunji gathered emergency supplies. Yoonji hesitated, then handed each of them an injector filled with the silver nanite solution. "Just in case," she said. "But remember, it's still experimental." They moved swiftly through the dark tunnels, following the trail of the Meridian attackers. The cave system was vast, with many unexplored branches. The extremists had found a deep chamber and barricaded themselves inside. Through a crack in the rock, Taewon could see the hostages. The 3 humans were bound together. The Vraxian commander was separated, his proud warrior body slumped, and bleeding. "They're performing some kind of ritual," Hyun-Woo whispered. "Look at the markings they're painting." The Meridians had drawn strange symbols on the cave floor using the Vraxians' green blood. They chanted in their own language, words the translator couldn't fully capture. Something about cleansing death's corruption and merciful passage. "They're going to execute them," Jihai realized. "We need to move now." With no time to wait. For backup, they created a simple plan. Yoonji would cause a distraction at one entrance while the others used the exoskeleton's strength to break through a thin section of rock wall. The plan worked, at first. The sudden crash of stone shocked the Meridians, giving Taewon and Hyun-Woo precious seconds to reach the hostages. Jihai slipped in behind them, medical kit ready. But the Meridians recovered quickly. Energy weapons powered up. Their purple glow filling the chamber. "Stop," their leader commanded. "The mercy ritual must be completed." "This isn't mercy," Taewon said, standing between the Meridians and the wounded Vraxian commander. This is murder. You do not understand. We have seen your ways. The Meridian's 4 arms gestured in patterns of obvious disgust. You prolong suffering. You keep the dying alive. It is cruel. We keep them alive because they can heal, Ji-hai argued, already working to treat the Vraxian's wounds. There's a difference between dying and wounded. The wounded become corrupted, another Meridian said. The death taint spreads. It is known. Understanding dawned on Taiwan. The Meridian culture feared the wounded because of some past trauma, perhaps a disease or parasite that spread through injuries. The standoff was interrupted by a shout of pain. One of the Meridians had fired at Hyunwoo, catching him square in the chest. The exoskeleton absorbed some of the blast, but Hyunwoo collapsed, blood spreading across his uniform. Ji-hee rushed to him, her face pale with shock. He's not breathing, Taewon fought to maintain his focus on the armed Meridians, even as he felt his friend's life slipping away. Yoonji's treatment, use it. With shaking hands, Ji-hai pressed the silver nanite injector against Hyunwoo's neck. For several terrible seconds, nothing happened. Then Hyunwoo gasped. His eyes opened, but they were strange. The pupils expanded until almost no iris remained. The medical scanner in Ji-hai's hand beeped in confusion, showing no heartbeat even as Hyunwoo clearly lived. Impossible, the Meridian leader whispered, backing away. He was death-touched. Now he lives, yet doesn't live. To the Meridians, it must have looked like magic or a terrible confirmation of their fears. A human who died and returned. Neither fully alive nor dead by their understanding. But what happened next shocked everyone. Hyunwoo stood up, moving with strange fluidity. The nanites were doing more than keeping him alive. They were enhancing his body's responses, making him faster, stronger. Running combat mode, he said, his voice oddly flat. Patient protection protocol activated. Before anyone could stop him, Hyunwoo launched himself at the Meridians. He moved too fast for their weapons to track, disarming them with precise strikes. The exoskeleton, powered by his nanite-enhanced movements, made him seem superhuman. In less than a minute, all 5 Meridian extremists were unconscious on the ground. Hyunwoo stood over them, swaying slightly, his eyes still black and unnatural. Hyunwoo? Taewon approached cautiously. Are you okay? Slowly, Hyunwoo's eyes began to return to normal. He looked down at his hands in confusion. What happened? You died, Ji-hai said simply. Then you didn't. Later, when the security team had taken the Meridians into custody and the hostages were safely in the medical ward, Yoonji examined Hyunwoo carefully. The nanites have integrated with his system, she explained. They're keeping him alive, but they've changed him. According to every medical scan, he's technically dead. No heartbeat, no brain activity by standard measures, but obviously, I'm still here, Hyunwoo finished, just slightly less alive than before. Schrodinger's medic, Ji-hai said with a weak smile. Both dead and alive at the same time. What none of them knew was that someone had recorded Hyunwoo's transformation. The footage, showing a human taking a fatal wound, dying, returning to life, and then moving with impossible speed and strength, was already spreading throughout the base. By morning, new stories would join the legend of the Deathless Angels, and this time, the stories would be partially true. A month after the hostage incident, Taewon stood in the command center of the underground hospital, watching monitor screens with growing concern. The war had intensified. What began as a 3-way conflict had grown more complex as factions formed within each species. Meridian forces are moving toward these settlements. Ji-hai pointed to red dots on the map, both human and Vraxian civilians in their path. And our teams? Taewon asked. Stretched thin. We have 7 rescue units in the field, all reporting heavy resistance. The legend of the Deathless Angels had changed things, but not always for the better. Their medical teams were now priority targets for Meridian attacks. The enemy believed that destroying the Angels would break the spirit of both human and Vraxian forces. Hyunwoo entered the room, moving with the strange, fluid grace that had become normal for him since the nanite treatment. His eyes still occasionally shifted to that unsettling black when he was under stress. Team 3 just returned, he reported. 2 injured, but they got all the civilians out. Taewon noticed how the other staff kept their distance from Hyunwoo. His condition, alive, yet reading as dead on medical scans, made people uneasy. Only the core team treated him normally. Any news from Dr. Cho? Ji-hai asked quietly. Hyunwoo shook his head. The nanites are failing. She gives me another month, maybe 2. The experimental treatment that saved Hyunwoo's life was now slowly killing him. The nanites had begun breaking down, and as they did, they damaged the systems they had repaired. Dr. Cho worked day and night seeking a solution, but time was running out. An alert sounded as a communication came through from Admiral Hayes. Captain Kim. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. I'm sending you new orders. We need your team for a special operation. Sir, we're already at maximum capacity here, Taewon protested. This comes directly from UEF Command. We've intercepted Meridian communications. They're bringing in a new weapon system, something designed specifically to target medical facilities. The Admiral's expression was grim. Your team's reputation makes you the ideal choice for this mission. The Deathless Angels carry significant psychological weight now. With respect, sir, we didn't ask for that name. Nevertheless, you've got it. And Command has decided to use it. The Admiral tapped a command, and new files appeared on Taewon's screen. Operation Divine Intervention. Full details in the brief. After the call ended, Taewon studied the mission plan with growing anger. It wasn't a medical operation at all. It was propaganda. A raid designed to be filmed and distributed, showing the Deathless Angels performing impossible rescues. They want us to use holographic enhancements, he told Ji-hai later in his office. Make it look like we're walking through fire untouched, like actual angels. That's insane, she replied. We're doctors, not special forces. Command thinks the legend can help end the war. If the Meridians believe they're fighting supernatural beings, they might be more willing to negotiate, or they might just try harder to kill us. The debate was interrupted when Dr. Yoonji Cho burst into the office, her face pale with excitement. I've found something, she said, placing her tablet on the desk. About the Meridians. Why they fear the wounded. On the screen was an ancient Meridian text, translated by the computer. It described a plague that had nearly wiped out their species centuries ago. The disease caused victims to appear dead before they reanimated as violent, mindless killers. Their entire culture evolved around this trauma, Yoonji explained. They believe injuries corrupt the body, allowing the plague to return. That's why they kill their wounded. They think it's merciful. And when they saw Hyunwoo die and come back, Ji-hee began. They thought their worst fears were confirmed. Taewon finished. That we're bringing back their ancient plague. This changed everything. Understanding the Meridian fear gave them a new perspective, and possibly a way to end the conflict. Taewon made his decision. I need to speak with Command. We're not doing their propaganda mission. I have a better idea. 2 days later, Taewon stood before a group of officers from all 3 species. It had taken all his influence and the support of both the Vraxian, High Commander, and sympathetic human officials to arrange this meeting. The fighting continues because we don't understand each other, he told them. The Meridians aren't monsters. They're acting from deep cultural trauma. He outlined his plan. Instead of using the Deathless Angels legend for military advantage, they would use it as a bridge to peace. A neutral meeting where representatives of all 3 species could speak openly, with Taewon's team as trusted intermediaries. Some officers were skeptical, but the Vraxian commander supported the idea. These humans saved my life, he said, his orange eyes intense. When they could have let me die. If they say talk is possible, I believe them. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Hayes took Taewon aside. This isn't what Command wanted. With respect, sir, what Command wanted wouldn't have worked. The Meridians would have seen through the holographic tricks eventually. This way, we have a chance at real peace. And if it fails, then at least we tried something better than propaganda. Later that night, as Taewon prepared for the peace mission, Hyunwoo found him in the medical storage room. "I want to go with you," Hyunwoo said. "As your proof." "What do you mean?" "Show them what I am. A human who died but lives. Show them it's not the ancient plague, that wounds can heal, that death isn't always final." "It's too dangerous," Taewon argued. "And your condition is getting worse anyway," Hyunwoo finished. "Let me do this. Let me be useful while I can." Before Taewon could answer, alarms blared throughout the base. Ji-Hye's voice came over the comm system, tense and urgent. "Multiple. Contacts dropping from orbit. Unknown configuration, not Meridian, not Vraxian, not human." They rushed to the command center to see new ships appearing on the scanners. Massive vessels, larger than anything they'd encountered before. "We're receiving a transmission, a communications," officer reported. "Audio only and standard." A deep, resonant voice filled the room. "Attention, inhabitants of Halcyon 66. This is Grand Admiral Zev of the Axelon Imperium. We have come in search of the beings known as the Deathless Angels. Surrender them to us immediately, or we will reduce this world to ash." Stunned silence filled the command center. The Axelon Imperium was a powerful, mysterious empire from the far reaches of the galaxy. They rarely interacted with other species, and when they did, it usually ended badly for those species. They came because of the stories, Ji-Hye realized. About us. Taewon looked around at his team, doctors and nurses who had only wanted to save lives. Now the focus of an interstellar power's attention. "What do they want with us?" Yoonji asked. "The legend," Hyunwoo said, his eyes shifting to black as the nanites responded to his stress. "They want the secret of deathlessness," Taewon thought quickly. The peace conference was now impossible. The Axelons would not be interested in three-species diplomacy, but perhaps this crisis could be turned to their advantage. If all three local species united against this new threat, "Open a channel to the Axelon ship," he ordered, "and get me the Vraxian commander and the Meridian leadership too. Tell them it's an emergency." "What are you going to do?" Ji-Hye asked. "What we always do," Taewon replied. "Try to save everyone." As the communications officer worked to establish the connections, Taewon wondered how a simple medical mission had led to this moment, standing between three warring species and a new power that might destroy them all. The legend of the Deathless. Angels had grown far beyond their control. Now they would have to find a way to use it one last time, not for glory or propaganda, but for survival. The neutral meeting station orbited Halcyon 6 like a small metal moon. Inside, representatives from 4 species sat at a round table, tension thick in the air. Taewon Kim stood at the center, no longer just a medical captain but now a reluctant diplomat. To his right sat Admiral Hayes and 2 other human officials. To his left, the Vraxian High Commander Ket Zul and his advisors. Across from them, 3 Meridian leaders watched with large, wary eyes. And at the far end, Grand Admiral Zev of the Axelon Imperium towered over everyone. The Axelons were impressive, tall, muscular beings with metallic blue skin and 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Their technology was clearly advanced, beyond anything the other species possessed. "We did not come to talk," Admiral Zev said, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "We came for the secret of the Deathless Angels." "There is no secret," Taewon replied calmly. "Only medicine, science, and doing our job. Do not lie to us." The Axelon's 4 eyes narrowed. "We have seen the evidence. Humans who survive unsurvivable situations, who return from death, who move with impossible speed and strength." Taewon glanced at Ji-Hye, who stood near the door with Dr. Yoonji Cho. Hyunwoo waited in a medical bay nearby, his condition deteriorating but stable for now. "What you've seen are stories," Taewon said, "exaggerated by fear and hope during wartime." "Then explain this." Admiral Zev activated a projection in the center of the table. It showed footage of their team during various rescue operations, Taewon carrying a Vraxian twice his size, Ji-hai continuing to run despite being wounded, and most damaging Hyunwoo's apparent death and revival during the hostage incident. Our intelligence network is vast, the Axelon continued. We have collected these records from across your communication systems. The Axelon Imperium does not tolerate deception. Taewon realized they had reached a critical moment. The Axelons had come seeking immortality, a weapon to make their soldiers unkillable. If they believed such technology existed, they would tear the planet apart to get it. You want the truth? Taewon asked. I'll show you. Against the protests of Admiral Hayes, Taewon called for Hyunwoo to join them. When the medic entered, everyone could see how much his condition had worsened. His skin was pale, with dark veins visible beneath. His eyes shifted between normal and solid black as the nanites fought to keep him alive. This is Sergeant Hyunwoo Lee, Taewon said, the only deathless angel among us, and he's dying. Dr. Cho stepped forward with medical scans. The nanite trauma system that saved him is breaking down. It was experimental, never meant for long-term use. The Axelon Admiral studied Hyunwoo with interest. This is the technology we seek. Imperfect, perhaps, but the foundation of true immortality. No, Taewon shook his head. You're missing the point. There is no immortality here. Only people doing their best to save lives, sometimes at great cost. Then explain the other evidence, Zev demanded. Your team's apparent invulnerability, your impossible rescues. This was the moment Taewon had been dreading. Some of that was real, protective gear, medical technology, training. But some... He looked apologetically at Admiral Hayes. Some was staged. The human admiral sighed but nodded for Taewon to continue. Our military enhanced the stories for psychological effect, Taewon explained. Used holographic technology to make rescues look more impressive than they were. They wanted the legend for the war effort. The revelation caused an uproar around the table. The Vraxians hissed in surprise, while the Meridians conferred rapidly in their musical language. Admiral Zev's expression darkened. You admit to deceiving us? Not us, Taewon clarified. We're just medical personnel. We never wanted to be angels or legends. We just wanted everyone to go home alive. As he spoke those words, their team's unofficial motto, Hyunwoo suddenly collapsed. Dr. Cho rushed to his side, scanning quickly with her medical devices. The nanites are failing completely, she reported urgently. His systems are shutting down. The room fell silent as Dr. Cho worked to stabilize Hyunwoo. Even the Axelon Admiral watched with what might have been respect, you see, Taewon said quietly. No immortality, no divine power, just people trying to help each other. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. After a long moment, Admiral Zev spoke. I have lived for 300 of your years, he said. In that time I have seen many species fight, conquer and destroy, but I have rarely seen them heal. He looked around the table. You four species fight a meaningless war while facing death with remarkable humanity. The Axelon seemed to struggle with the word. Perhaps there is something to learn here, though, not what we came for. To everyone's surprise, the Axelon stood and announced, the Imperium will withdraw from this system. Your conflict is your own to resolve, but know that we will be watching how you proceed. As the Axelon delegation prepared to leave, the Meridian leader suddenly rose. The human speaks truth about our fears, he said. For generations we have killed our wounded because of ancient terrors. Perhaps it is time to learn new ways. The Vraxian commander Ketzul nodded slowly. My people called these humans deathless angels because they saved those we would have abandoned. Not because they could not die, but because they refused to let others die when they could help. Something shifted in the room. A tension breaking, a possibility opening. The peace talks that Taewon had planned before the Axelons arrived suddenly seemed possible again. In the medical bay afterward, the team gathered around Hyunwoo. Dr. Cho had stabilized him, but the prognosis was clear to everyone. So, Hyunwoo said weakly, did I help prove we're not actually angels? You did more than that, Ji-hai told him, holding his hand. You helped start the peace talks again. Turns out all it took was nearly dying in front of everyone, he joked, then grew serious. Was it worth it? All of this? Tae-wan looked at his friend, a man who had given everything for their mission. You helped save thousands of lives, and maybe ended a war. I'd say that's worth quite a lot. 3 weeks later, representatives from humans, Vraxians, and Meridians signed the Halcyon Accords. The treaty included a remarkable section establishing joint medical protocols based on the work of Captain Tae-wan Kim's team. Hyun-woo did not live to see the signing. He died peacefully 2 days before, the nanites finally failing completely. At his memorial service, members of all 3 species attended, something unthinkable months earlier. 1 year later, Tae-wan stood before a class of medical students on Earth. The lecture hall was filled with humans, but also a few Vraxians, and most surprisingly 3 young Meridians. The legends you've heard about the Deathless angels are just that. Legends, he told them. We weren't special. We weren't immortal. We were just people who believed that medicine shouldn't recognize enemies, only patients. Ji-hai, now a major, with her own command, watched from the back of the room. After the class, she and Tae-wan walked across the academy grounds. I heard something interesting yesterday, she said. In the Meridian Quarter, they're telling children stories about humans who came from the stars to teach them that wounds don't have to mean death. Great, Tae-wan sighed. Another legend. Maybe this one's not so bad, Ji-hai suggested. It's about healing, not war. I suppose. Tae-wan looked up at the stars, thinking of Hyun-woo and the others they had lost. As long as they remember the truth behind it, which is that we weren't heroes, he said, repeating the words he had spoken so many times. We weren't angels. We just wanted everyone to go home alive. Ji-hai smiled and took his hand. Some of us did make it home. Together, they walked toward the memorial garden, where a simple stone bore the names of those who had given everything, so others could live. No grand monument to deathless angels, just a quiet place to remember ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. And somewhere in the stars above, the legend continued to spread, changing as all legends do. But at its heart remained a simple truth. Sometimes the most human thing we can do is help each other survive.